Okay, hi. So what I'm hoping to do in this video, and I say hoping because it's gone wrong many times by now, is to show you how to interface between Psychopy3 and Pavlovia. So essentially what we want to do here is to take our experiment that we've built in Psychopy3 and host it on Pavlovia so that people can complete it online. So I've made a few assumptions. One is that you've got Psychopy3 installed on your computer. If you have an earlier version that's not Psychopy3, so if it's 2 or 1, you won't have these little icons up here. So make sure you've got Psychopy3. Assumption number 2, make sure that you've got a Pavlovia account. So if you have not already got one, go forth and register with Pavlovia. Assumption number 3, you have an experiment or a demo ready to go in Psychopy3 so that you've got something that we can upload. Assuming all those things are in place, you will need to make sure, so what I've got open here is the builder interface on Psychopy3. And we want to make sure that our builder interface is synced or linked to our Pavlovia account. And to do that, we want to go over here to this little meeple and click on him or her. And if you are logged in, as I am, you will get a link here to your GitLab or your Pavlovia online account. And it'll give you a little bit of information about yourself. If you're not logged in, it will ask you to log in. So once you've done all of that business, we now want to take our lovely experiment. You can see the name of my experiment up here. It's a version of the BART, and we want to shove that experiment off into the ether so that it's available on Pavlovia. So we want to go here to sync with web project. So where we've got this little sync or recycle sign, and we click this. And it will give you a little dialog box. And sometimes the dialog box will give you an error. So here we can see that it says 404 project not found. Now, obviously, we have our project open, so we think, why is it not found? And while I can't give you an answer for that, I can give you a fix. And that is to go back to where your project is. So in my case, it's here. And find your psy.exp. I'll start that again. Find your .psyexp file. So that's the extension we're looking for. And open that again in Psychopy3. And this time, when we click our little sync do-over, we'll get a different dialog box. Now, for me, it's asking me to recreate something because I've previously deleted the project associated with this file, with this experiment. But for you, it'll say something like, this experiment isn't related to a project. Shall we create a project? And you will create a project. Either way, we'll eventually meet with this screen in which we can name our project. So I'm going to call mine Bart_Eilish. And you can see here it tells you who owns it. So I own it. It tells you where it's found on your computer. It offers you the option to name or describe your project. So I'm going to say balloon, ANALOGUE, balloon analog task, blah, blah. So here you've got an option to click to make it available to the public. So that just means that people can search for it, including you, on Pavlovia. I'm going to leave that unchecked for now. And then you can create your project on Pavlovia. And so then you'll get a little dialog box that says pushing files to Pavlovia, blah, 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 blah. Success, hurrah. So what I want to do now is cut to our GitLab Pavlovia situation. So this is the screen for my GitLab account that's linked to my Pavlovia account. GitLab or GitHub is an online repository for code. In our case, code to do with experimental software. And it's open source and it's all the good things. So this is my page. There's nothing going on at the moment. So I'm going to refresh this. Oops. And if I refresh it, you can see the experiment that we've just pushed from Psychopy3 up into Pavlovia now exists. So it says that I created this project, Bart_Eilish, that I pushed something up to it. So if I click on this, it takes me to a page that you're probably going to find really dull, but is essentially the online file for your experiment. So here you can see that we've got all the same little files that you had in your desktop folder. And that includes things like your stimuli, but also your actual file. But if you click that, it just takes you to the code for your file. Okay, so clearly just going to the GitHub is not enough to run your experiment online. So instead, we need to go to the Pavlovia website. So Pavlovia interfaces now with both Psychopy and with Git. So your code, your information is stored on Git, but Pavlovia is like the user interface or the host for completing experiments and so on. So we've got a couple of options here. We can explore, and had we made our experiment available, we could search Bart. Well, I'll just search Bart to begin with. And usually things happen slightly more quickly. So you can see there are loads of versions of the balloon analog risk task available online. What is more interesting to us is our dashboard. So this tells us a little bit about ourselves. So you can see it tells you that I'm me and my username and that I've got no credits and my email address and where my license would be if my university had a license. We've also got some other options here. So we've got experiments and we've got credits. Today we're going to go to experiments. And you see here that the project that we pushed from Psychopy3 up into Pavlovia is now available. So we can click on that. I'm so sorry, my dog is snoring beside me. Okay, so what we've got here then is the Pavlovia page for our experiment. So you can see it says things like when it was created, the GitLab ID and so on. Gives us the option to view code, which will take us right back to that GitLab page. It talks about our status, and we'll come back to that in a second. It gives us the option to specify some things about our recruitment policy. It gives you some information about saving your results. So if you are one of my students, I will recommend that you save in csv.csv, which is like an Excel file, and which is compatible with SPSS. You have the option to save incomplete results or not, as you prefer. And then when it comes to an appropriate time, you can download your results. Okay, so what we're interested in is our status. And at the moment, our experiment is inactive. So it exists on the server, but we can't do anything with it. We've got two other options. We can pilot the experiment, so to make sure that it's working online, or we can run the experiment so we can start recruiting. Now, clearly, we want to pilot it first and make sure that it actually does run. So you click the little piloting square, and suddenly this is highlighted, and you get this little orange button over here that says pilot. So if we click on this, it takes us to the recruitment window or the opening screen for our experiment. So at this point, we can start really piloting the study and seeing if it works online or if there are any bugs with it. And I'd advise you to run through it a couple of times. If there are any issues, make a little note, and then you can go back and fix them either in GitHub or in the Builder window on Psychopy3 on your computer. Okay, so I hope that's helpful, and thank you for your time.